Hey guys, welcome back. So in this lesson, we're going to be going through a process called seeding. So seeding is where we provide some initial data to the database. And what we're actually going to do is just hard code some records that when we perform a migration afterwards, the migration will have instructions to create these records, update the database with these records, and it won't necessarily rely on user input. So at least that will provide a nice basis for our testing when we start developing the API endpoints. So what we want to do is go to our database context, and we're going to override a protected method that is really inside of the DB context. So protected override void on model creating, and we are passing in the parameter model builder, and I'm just calling it builder. And then what we'll say is something like builder dot entity, and then I have to specify which entity I'm dealing with. So we have country and we have hotel. Countries have to exist for hotels to exist, and that's really because of how we defined our records, right? So we said country, and then hotel has a foreign key. So we have to have the country before we can put in that foreign key. So I'm going to say entity country dot has data. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm missing a bracket period there. Right. So entity country and then open and close brace has data, open and close brace. And then inside of this, we're going to define some countries. So we can define as many, because it takes an array. So has data really takes an array of type country. So we can define a few records here. So I'm just going to define 3. All right. So new country record with ID equals 1. And once again, we are putting in the data, so we have to manually provide all of these values. And this is the first country that I'm putting. And the short name is JM. All right. And I'm just going to copy this and paste it to kind of reduce the typing. So this would be 2 and this would be 3. And the next one, let's say Bahamas, and the short name for Bahamas, if I'm not mistaken, is BS, and then the next one would be Cayman Islands. So I'm just choosing some destinations, some popular tourist destinations where you'd probably want to know what hotels are there, right? So the short name for Cayman Islands would be CI. All right. If I'm not all that accurate, then later on we can correct it. But for now, once again, these are example records, right? So I did that for country. I would just repeat that feat for the hotels, right? So I just copied and pasted most of the code. I notice when I change this to hotel, it's going to change the expected parameters to type hotel, or well, it's saying object because it's not getting hotels here, so that's fine. We'll just change these out to hotel. All right, ID, name. What else did we have for the hotel? We had address. So let me get this. So this is Sandals Resort and Spa. So I'm actually familiar with some of them. Address, let's just keep it short and say Negril. We already know the country. The country is Jamaica, so country ID would be 1, right? And then the rating is, last I heard, it was, I'm going to say 4.5, but I know it's a 5-star kind of resort. So I'm just going to copy these details down. All right. So we have a hotel for Jamaica. Let me just put a hotel per country just to make sure that we're spread right across. And I'm just going to make up something for Bahamas. So Bahamas, let's say they have Grand Grand Palladium. So I know for sure Grand Palladium is a hotel in Jamaica. But for example's sake, we're putting it there. Oh, I put it at the wrong place. I'm sorry. So this should be country 2. Let's just do that. And that's a 4-star. Once again, this is not factual. We're just making up data, right? So for Cayman, they have comfort suites. And the address, let's say George Town. The country ID is 3 for Cayman, and the rating is 4.3. All right. So that's us seeding some data into the database. Now, this can get a bit crowded. You could just collapse it like that so it doesn't take up too much space. Or what I tend to do also is actually move it to underneath the DB set definitions so that when I come to make modifications to the DB sets, I can always just stack them on top. I don't have to scroll all the way past that. There are ways to extract this and put them in other files and call the configurations also. But then this is just a quick win, a quick way to see the data into the database. So now that we have defined a few test records, the next thing that we want to do is add a migration. So I'm going to add migration. And this one we're going to call the seeding data. All right. So notice that each time I add a migration, I try to be descriptive enough with the name such that you can tell, oh, that's what happened at that point. So it's almost like source control for the data, right? And if you look at this migration file, you'll actually see here where it says insert data into this table, and these are the columns and those are the data values, right? So it will go ahead and do all of that. Right, I don't know why I turned my 4.3 into 4.299999998. Not sure why, but that's just how it is going to reformat it so that it can do the insertions. So the next thing that we want to do is update database so that it can effectively carry out the commands in the migration. So it did say done. What I'm going to do is go back to my Object Explorer, and then I'm going to right click and view data on the countries table. And there we go. We have data in our database. So we have successfully created our 3 countries, and we can look at the matching hotels. All right. So that is how you can put initial data into your .NET Core applications using Entity Framework Core and the DB context.